So I'm Karen Hagan. I'm a financial advisor with Four Oaks Financial Services. We have an office in Lichfield. We also visit clients at their homes and we operate around the Tamworth, Lichfield and Sutton Coldfield area. I've been working in financial services now for 28 years, but I've been operating as a full financial advisor for about 8 years. Prior to that, my career was in financial services doing administration and management, so lots of experience there. I'd like to hand over tonight to my colleague Sam to introduce herself.
So yeah, Sam Hendry. I also work with Four Oaks Financial Services, purely on the mortgage and protection side. I've been in the finance industry for just over 30 years, and the last 10 of that purely dealing with mortgages, previously commercial. I think I decided to start this evening's seminar with a quote from Benjamin Franklin that says, "If a man empties his purse into his head, no man can take it away from him. An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest." And I don't think that you can go far wrong with making sure that you have all the knowledge that you need and all the information available to you before making decisions for probably one of the biggest purchases that you're going to make in your lifetime. So I appreciate at the moment, I deal with an awful lot of landlords and people buying mortgages, but those sort of first-time landlords, first-time buyers, portfolio landlords, specialist landlords, those dealing with multi-units, HMO licences, HMO properties, but there's been a really big change across the market in how you purchase, criteria from different lenders, how do you purchase, what assets you purchase, what vehicle do you put it in, and that constantly changes over time as to what works and doesn't work with different types of tax relief. So I think at the moment, you guys that are landlords, your biggest issue probably at the moment is going to be coming round to tenant management and relationships that you've got with your tenants. And obviously key to that is maintaining really positive relationships with them for the success of your portfolio and also for how the property is looked after, because it is your asset at the end of the day. Other significant issues that we've seen, or I've seen within the mortgage market at the moment, is the maintenance of the property, the legal implications for all the changes that are coming about, financial pressures, changes with mortgage lenders, changes with rates, fees that get added onto the mortgages, rental income, interest ratio calculations. There's just so many things that are happening, all whilst you're probably doing another job as well at the same time. So as landlords, you are playing a vital role in the market, providing houses for people to live in, affordable homes, and obviously you want them to be looked after whilst keeping your asset strong. So tonight I think we're going to look at sort of different options as to how you can use your portfolio, whether that be one property or 20, as to how that investment can be used, what we're seeing as the trends in the market at the moment, so you can maximise your rental income, reduce any voids, vacancies, issues with your tenants, and I think by working together with your financial advisors, your wealth managers, tax specialists, accountants, that only by doing that all together can you actually achieve a response that you know you've covered every angle. Because unless you speak to everyone together and all those people work together, it's never going to work, because there's always going to be something outside that circle that's going to throw your plans off kilter. So I know that with a lot of the case scenarios that have just been shown, I could probably count lots of clients that fit into those in different ways and could have all made different choices if they've just done that with one focused approach. So I know that kind of at Four Oaks we tend to try and work together, and I think from the slide there the clock is backwards for anyone that's noticed, and that is because you can't go back in time. You can't say, oh, I wished I'd done this, or I should have done that differently, because by that point in time you've already made that commitment, you've got the asset, you've got the liability, probably got the mortgage, and it does get complicated as life changes, requirements change, but a property's still your bricks and mortar and it's still got a pound sign against it. So I think we're looking to try and work together to see how you can do that a little bit differently, working outside the box and how to use your income in a different way, as opposed to just keeping it all in one place, paying the huge capital gains, stamp duty, income tax. I guess the list is endless, but yeah.
Yeah, so on that, as a financial advisor who specialises in investments, I'm here to talk about some of the financial implications of being a portfolio landlord, and perhaps some food for thought for you and some alternatives as to different things that you could do. So what I specifically wanted to look at this evening was, let's have a look first of all at the obvious advantages of owning property. I'm sure we all know those, but obviously a property has capital appreciation and clearly then an income via a rent, so a regular income, which is great. But there are some disadvantages of owning property too, and that's what I'm here to talk about. So I'd like you to think of them in terms of, the best way to put this is, I've had clients who own properties and they're beginning to see, with the increasing tax burden of owning properties, that there are alternatives or compromises that they can make with those assets effectively. So some of the disadvantages of owning property, there is of course an increasing tax burden. The government are always looking for ways to collect more tax, and they're only going to attack, in our opinion, property owners and portfolio landlords more going forwards. There is of course the hassle of owning property, so looking for tenants, filling up void periods, having no income if the tenants have just disappeared, for example. There's also the hassle of having to refurb the property if the tenants leave it in a bad state of repair. You've also got your agency fees, you've got your capital gains tax, you've got repairs and refurbishment costs, and then you've got other incidentals such as accountancy fees. You've got to do self-assessment, things like this. As Rahul and Hannah alluded to earlier, it's very important that your will is constructed properly and with advice. And that is because if you own a number of properties, then think about what would happen in the event of your death. So who would manage those going forward? It's important that you've made arrangements in respect of that. Also, how are the properties left in your will? So again, going back to the earlier presentation, that's something to be considered too. There's also the fact that properties are very illiquid. It takes time for them to sell, so it's not as easy to get at the money from them. And then there are legal fees regarding leases and leaseholds and things like that. So I have a number of clients who have in the past owned large portfolios of property, and what they're now deciding to do is to compromise and to actually sell some properties given the increasing tax burden, etc., and to invest some of the money instead, so that they've got really a separate income stream from somewhere else. It's also really important, and I really stress this, to not have all your eggs in one basket. So diversification is incredibly important, and you can achieve that by investing elsewhere along with property. So what are the advantages really of investing? Well, you could receive a tax efficient income, and the way that I can do that is I can manage that for you as an investor. I can actually take advantage of your personal allowance and your marginal tax rate, and I can give you a tax efficient income from an investment. Slightly different to the income that you get from the rent, which is of course taxed. You can also more easily mitigate inheritance tax through an investment than you can currently with a property. So there are ways and means that we can do that and achieve that for you by using investments to mitigate your inheritance tax. We can take advantage of something called business relief, which actually means that instead of having to live for the 7 years after you make a gift, you just have to live for 2 years, which is much better. This is really often used for much older people, so 85 plus, but obviously there's an advantage there because they aren't under pressure, shall we say, to live for 7 years. There's also, with investing, less hassle. So you haven't got the tenants leaving the place in a state of disrepair. You've just got a simple investment that I take care of for you. Moving on, you might want to consider certain types of investments. Now these are specific investments that can actually work really well for landlords. And And these are things that, it was mentioned earlier, enterprise investment schemes. There's also something called a venture capital trust. Both of these are specialised investments and they are quite high risk. However, what they do is they actually give a great deal of tax relief. So for example, and I'm going to use a case study here, I have a lady landlord who receives a rental income of £30,000 a year, and she's been assessed with tax of £6,000 a year on that rental income. By doing either a VCT or an EIS investment, she can actually receive £6,000 of tax relief in the 1 year. So for example, if she invests £20,000 a year for the next 5 years and receives £6,000 of tax relief per year, she'll have saved £30,000 over 5 years. So that's really attractive to her. What's really, really important here is she can invest that £20,000 from her rental income. You are restricted with rental income as to what you can actually do with it. For example, you can't pay it into a pension, but you can pay it into these investments, which do give you really attractive tax relief. So that's something worth looking at. So I think the message from me is that by working alongside portfolio landlords and working in a kind of joined up thinking way, which we do at Four Oaks, and by me liaising with Sam and the clients, we can really achieve for them something a little bit outside the box or an alternative that they haven't necessarily thought of. So I'll pass over to you, Sam.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know sort of the range of portfolios that are held. At the moment, rates are reducing today, rates go up tomorrow, they'll then change again. They're more expensive if you've got a limited company and you want to set up a vehicle. I think it is about spreading the risk, understanding why you want that investment, what your plan for that investment is, and making it work for you as an individual. And then as life changes happen, speak to someone, let them know that we need to change the will, we need to make a variation. I want someone else to look after my lasting power of attorney because change does happen. And I think it's very easy when you have a portfolio, you suddenly get to a point where you think, well, actually, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore and building it. I actually would rather, as you said, downsize, maximise the profits, use those profits in a different type of investment to keep it working for me as I develop. That's not going to work for a first-time landlord. It's not going to work for probably someone with 3, 4 properties. But as you start building, the assets are growing, your income's increasing, and it's deciding where you want that to go and how it's going to continue to work for you. Lenders are already changing very much in the market at the moment as to how they're supporting. The specialist lenders are actually now probably becoming more mainstream, and I don't like the word specialist lending because it is just lending. If you look hard enough, there will be a lender that will look after every single scenario, but you pay the price for that. And the reason for that is probably on perceived risk of what you're looking to do. So I think by working together, as I say, with accountants, the solicitors, financial advisors, wealth managers, it's got to be a joint approach to keep it working for you. I'd like to put out there that obviously I know that you're touching on sort of the rent reform for landlords. I mean, I had a quick look and printed it off. No one's actually going to read the government site of the document and actually understand a word that it says. I mean, a lot of it's jargon that even I've had to look and cross-reference and try and actually think, well, it doesn't make sense. Article 4 restrictions for HMO landlords on certain roads and certain properties. People are being charged now to register, make sure that they're registered as landlords, to make sure that they're then not at any future risk of a body being set up that's going to investigate them if they're not living in the property. I think a lot of landlords are genuine in setting up their portfolios, declaring their income, doing the right thing, and not everyone is always aware of what changes are coming along, which I think was probably the whole purpose of tonight's event. Is there is always change, and it's always looking to get that advice to see what that change is. Has anyone here got any questions on the market as landlords at the moment, or any particular issues that they're finding challenging? No major issues or concerns?
Has anybody thought about investing portions of their rental income into
being green, having the property up to an EPC standard of an E. For some properties that would just be changing a light bulb and it's an easy fix. For some of the older properties, there's different types of construction and then the risk for properties of non-standard construction have changed. That again causes challenges and problems. So it's really making sure that when you're making that purchase and that big investment, that you are comfortable with all the risks and everything that's associated with it. Because whilst there's a lender for everything, there's a reason why you end up paying higher rates. There's a reason why there's bigger fees being included. Because at the end of the day, they probably all average out at the same rate over the term. It's just how it's going to work for you. And I think if you can spread that risk and use some of that rental income in an investment, you're probably at higher risk anyway in making decisions by going into property, that because it's for the long term, that risk can then be managed and work to your advantage. So yeah, I think that's probably pretty much where we're coming from in the market. It's always going to be change. Nothing ever stands still, so it's just making sure that if you've got any problems, any questions, any queries, that you speak to someone that can help you and give you that advice that you might need.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.